Right, so let's settle for the details. My name is Elton Bob, and you can join us with your comments, your questions via our social media handles. And it's something that is going to generate controversy from now till December. President Akufo-Addo is a man who has never hidden his pride in the impact the free senior high school program is having on the country's youth. As he prepares to leave office in the next 6 months, he's eager to protest this as his legacy and prevent any future government from scrapping it. Today, he has laid before Parliament a bill which will make it law and make it difficult or impossible to scrap it. Here is the Majority Leader, Alexander Afenyomarkin, announcing the plan on the floor of Parliament this morning.
The Minister of Education will present the free SHS bill to Parliament. You know, the Chapter 5 of the Constitution provides some aspirational indicatives. Those are not justiciable. But once, by policy of government, an aspiration, as envisaged by the Constitution, is put into action, then to make it justiciable, you enact. In other words, there are provisions in the Constitution that you cannot enforce. You cannot claim rights to those provisions. The fact that they are there does not mean that you can apply to the court to enforce those rights. They are merely, should I enforce certain rights and give rights and take certain actions. So I think that this free SHS bill, if we consider as a house, what that means is that it becomes mandatory for government to implement this. Unless it is repealed, no government would have the right to say, I am not going to enforce free SHS, because now there's a law. So if you fail, a citizen can apply to the court as his bona fide, and the court would exact justice in that citizen's favor. So that is the good news about this bill.
So that is the intention of government now, as announced by the Majority Leader, Alexander Afenyomarkin, at a news conference before proceedings started in Parliament this morning. This afternoon, we'll scrutinize the details of the law and speak to experts about it. Here's what we know about the program so far. And before we understand what the bill entails, this is what we know. So the free SHS in 2016, in terms of total enrollment, in 2016, about 851,312 entered the free SHS, entered the senior high school. And as at the end of 2022, the program alone, in terms of figures, has over 1 million people attending. So this is what you have on your screens is the increment in terms of enrollment from 2017, when the program was first introduced, from 362,000 all the way to 2018. It went to 432, came down to 404 in 2019-2020 academic year, went up at 425 in the 2020-21 academic year, 463,000. And then, as at the end of 2022-2023 academic year, we had to get the figures for this year. The number of yearly enrollment has risen from 362 to 448,214 as of the 2022-2023 academic year. So there's been monumental increment. In terms of government funding, between 2012 and 2024, as we speak, government has spent 15.6 billion Ghana cedis on the running of the free senior high school program. That is the information we have, and this is coming from the Ministry of Finance 27-2024 academic year. So budgetary allocation is risen from 400 million in 2017, went to 1.1 2018, 1.6 2019, 2.4 2020, came down to 1.9 2021, went up to 2.2 2022, 2023, 2.9. And as we speak, so far, the expenditure, or what government is projected to spend on the free senior high school program, stands at 2.76 billion Ghana cedis. And so, in terms of budgetary allocation, there's a difference between how much government project to spend and how much actually goes into the running of the program in terms of the releases. So, in 2017, the government allocated 480. The actuals was actually 400 million. In 2018, the budgetary allocation was 1.13. The actuals was almost the same. So government spent the entire amount. 2019 it was 1.6, but the actual expenditure was 1.2 billion. 2020, the budgetary allocation was 2.4 billion. However, government spent only 1.4 billion on the program. And in 2021, the budgetary allocation or government projection was that it was going to spend 1.9 billion on the free senior high school program. It ended up spending just a little over 1 billion Ghana cedis in 2021. Even though in terms of budgetary allocation and actual releases, there's a bit of non-correspondence, but what is instructive is that government expenditure in the free senior high school program has seen a yearly rise in terms of 2017 up until what we have now. So the credibility, as you have it, so in 2017, for example, when the program was first introduced, government went beyond how much it had projected. So government spent 120% more so government spent more than it projected. Then it began to come down. So in 2018 academic year, it came down to almost 100%. But then 2019-20, 76%, 2020-21, 58%, 2021-22 academic year, government projection, only half went into actually the running of the free senior high school program. And that is what we have. So the challenges has always been sources of funding, limited accommodation for students, feeding challenges, limited access to learning materials. It's been a recurring challenge since the introduction of the program in 2017, but government is resolute in its determination to see it through. And these are the challenges, as we know. So the flagship program, Free Senior High School, covers the full course of secondary education, has helped increase enrollment, but according to the International Monetary Fund, it is poorly targeted. And so these are, development partners in their view of the senior high school program. And they made some recommendations. One of them is for the strengthening of the primary education resources, better teacher training, stronger performance-based funding practices. These were some of the recommendations that came from the International Monetary Fund, and it's unclear whether government is working to make it even better. There have been calls for review and all that. So this came from the IMF, at least at the time that we're going to. So let me take you to Parliament now. James Aveji is there for Joy News, and he joins us. So, James, welcome. At this news conference, we were told by the Majority Leader, Alexander Afenyomakin, that the Education Minister is getting himself ready to lay this bill on the floor. Has that happened yet?
Happened yet. In fact, the indication is that the bill is ready, prepared by the Education Ministry, and by close of this week, the Education Minister, Dr. Yao said, should be in the premises of Parliament to, provide that to the Education Committee. We know that when he does that, a committee would have to sit on that and also get some interest groups, especially CSOs in education and all of that, to also have a say in it, like we have seen in the case of the anti-LGBTQ plus bill and others, where other organizations, people who have interest in this, would have to meet the committee and present their submission to the committee on that. The concern generally has been whether this has the backing of the minority on this. The minority themselves haven't spoken on the issue yet, but what the majority leader is expecting is that by close of week, the education minister should be in the House to present that. We can listen to some more reason why they would want to back this free SHS policy with a law.
The Minister of Education will present the free SHS bill to Parliament. You know, the Chapter 5 of the Constitution provides some aspirational indicatives. Those are not justiciable. But once, by policy of government, an aspiration, as envisaged by the Constitution, is put into action, then to make it justiciable, you enact. In other words, there are provisions in the Constitution that you cannot enforce. You cannot claim rights to those provisions. The fact that they are there does not mean that you can apply to the court to enforce those rights. They are merely, should I enforce certain rights and give rights and take certain actions. So I think that this free SHS bill, if we consider as a house, what that means is that it becomes mandatory for government to implement this. Unless it is repealed, no government would have the right to say, I am not going to enforce free SHS, because now there's a law. So if you fail, a citizen can apply to the court as his bona fide, and the court would exact justice in that citizen's favor. So that is the good news about this bill.
So, James, let me conclude with you. So we'll have to wait till next week before the education minister can formally lay this bill before Parliament.
Exactly. That's the indication we get from the minister, from the majority leader, that they are waiting on him. Immediately he brings that to Parliament. The Education Committee is expected to get to work on that until it is brought to the floor of the House.
So we also do understand that the House is now sitting. Is that the case?
Yes. The House, just before I got on air with you, the Speaker gathered the House to session, taking prayers before, just about some 5 minutes ago. The House was, earlier scheduled to start sitting at 1 p.m., but there have been some delays. In fact, the minority before, in the morning, just before midday, announced that they would be boycotting every sitting of the House that falls on a day where their leader, the minority leader, Kesala Tukuforsen, had to go to court. The indication is that they had earlier written to the presiding judge on the case to take leave of the minority leader to concentrate on the business of the House. But the judge had earlier declined their request. They did that subsequently, but that request was shut down. And so this morning, the minority leader was also in court. In fact, when we came to the House in the morning, there was supposed to be a media briefing from the leadership of the House, was first call, before the House go into session. And on that agenda was supposed to be a message from the minority leader as well. But Kesala Tukuforsen wasn't present in the House to give us that briefing. We learned he was in court. The minority whip, Gavin Sakboja, indicates that there was also an earlier meeting with the Parliamentary Service Management, which he was supposed to attend, but he didn't attend that. And so until the court grants their request, they would be boycotting the sitting every time there is court in session until that request is granted. And so, but before the House got in session, I went to the floor. I saw some senior members of the minority. I saw the former minority leader, Harun Idrisu. I saw the Toa Blakwa, Sam George, and others. A few of them on the floor. I don't know whether the others will be joining subsequently. But that was their position.
Right.
I'm sure by now courts have closed, and so he should be joining them on the floor of Parliament. And so that's what it has been before the session. We are yet to know what on the business paper for the day. There were supposed to be some presentation of reports from the audit service and all of that. I'm sure quite a number of things will be coming up. The majority leader indicates that this session of the House will be quite short before they go on another break. As to how long, we do not know. I'm sure details should be coming by close of day also.
Right, thank you very much, James. So we'll come back to you when the Speaker is ready for his opening remarks, and of course, the majority leader and the minority leader as well. So we'll come back to you when that is about happening. Thank you very much, James Abaji. We'll stay with Parliament, but we'll pick, reaction to this latest move by government to give some legal backing to the free senior high school program. Dr. Peter Anti, Party Executive Director, Institute for Education Studies, joins me via Zoom. We'll also be going to Parliament to speak to the ranking member on the Education Committee, Peter Nochu, and of course, also understand what really we are in for when we are also joined by Kwesi Kwarteng, the Public Relations Officer with the Education Ministry. But let me start with Dr. Peter Anti, Party. So, Doc, so you've heard government intention. The actualization of this will happen next week, but 6 months to the expiration of the Akufo-Addo administration, they want to not give legal backing to the free senior high school program. Is this a step in the right direction? Yes, Doc, if you can unmute for me. Right, we'll see, we'll try and reconnect with him, but the free senior high school was introduced in 2017. It remains a program with no legal backing. Now, 6 months to the end of the Akufo-Addo administration, they've signaled their intention to go to Parliament and get Parliament to, approve a bill, if you like, and then to give legal backing to the free senior high school program. When that is done, the expectation is that every government beyond 2025 will have no option than to stay with the implementation of the program, regardless of the financial costs or other challenges that it currently faces. And that is the position of government now. The details of that, we are told, the information, the Education Minister will spell it out when given that opportunity on the floor of Parliament to lay it and then get both houses to now, go through it, give interest parties the opportunity to add on to it, and then see to the implementation. Let me see if I can connect to Dr. Peter Anti-Party. Doctor, you're welcome to the pulse. Yeah, so we've lost him. We'll try and reconnect with him as we want to get to understand the concerns and whether or not this will have a way of addressing the concerns that people have with the implementation of the free senior high school program that was first introduced in 2017. I cannot take you live to Parliament now, where the Speaker and leaders of the House are addressing the gathering. So that is the sitting for today, a very short sitting. The main agenda will be the consideration of the mid-year budget. But before we hear the Speaker's opening remarks, because there's been a lot of issues, the anti-LGBTQ bill and other matters that is before court, the Speaker had some issues with it before the House went on an indefinite leave. But before we do that, let's understand government latest move on the free SH. Dr. Peter Anti-Party joins me, and I'm sure we can make a good connection. Dr. Anti, good afternoon. Welcome to the Pulse. Right. So we'll have to rectify this challenge. We'll take a short break and return with more on the Pulse. Right, so I can now take you to Parliament Live now, where the Speaker of Parliament is addressing members.
I will be traveling outside the country on Tuesday, 11th June 2024, to Nassau, Bahamas, at the invitation of the Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of Bahamas, Honorable Philip E. Davis, KC, MP, and Professor Benedict Urama, President and Chairman of the Board of Directors of the Afro-Exim Bank, to participate in the 31st meetings of the bank, scheduled to be held from 12th to 14th of June 2024. I will depart Nassau on Friday, 14th June 2024, to Switzerland at the invitation of the President of the Swiss Confederation, His Excellency Violo Ahmed, to participate in the first summit on peace in Ukraine from 15th to 16th June 2024. I will then return to Accra on 16th June 2024. During my absence, the Vice President, Alhaji Dr. Mahumudu Bawumia, shall, in accordance with Article 68 of the Constitution, act in my stead. Yours sincerely, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, signed. I will today, instead of a formal communication, say a few words of welcome of honorable members from the recess. Honorable members, welcome from a long and eventful recess to the third meeting of the fourth session of the 8th Parliament of the Fourth Republic of Ghana. I know you are still busily engaged in your constituencies, mobilizing your constituents for the ongoing voter transfers and proxy application exercise, which the Electoral Commission is processing. Having been part of this business for a long time, I can appreciate the weight of the responsibilities on you and the demands on your person and resources. Despite this stress, I know it is a process that most of you would have loved to see completed before returning to the House to continue with plenary session. Unfortunately, national parliamentary duty calls. Neither me nor you can say no. I had to summon Parliament, and I am grateful you dutifully complied to the summons. Some of you who couldn't make it at your party primaries are also planning and putting in place strategies to sustain life after Parliament, while members who fortunately have received the mandate of the voters and their parties to contest the December 2024 elections are also engaged in campaign activities. This meeting is thus tight and challenging. That notwithstanding, Parliament is called upon to consider some critical legislation, motions, agreements, and oversight responsibilities to deepen the democratic culture and to ensure a smooth transition to the 9th Parliament of the 4th Republic of Ghana. The agenda of this meeting, therefore, includes urgent legislations for consideration. These are, and I'll just mention a few, the Affirmative Action Gender Equality Bill 2023. Committee, this week, we want the report to be presented and laid. You have no excuse. This time around, you have no excuse. 2, Constitution of the Republic of Ghana Amendment Bill 2021. And the honorable member had a discussion with me today. He is ready to proceed with it. 3, International Business or Economic Transactions Bill 2024. That is a very critical bill because the responsibility has been heaped on Parliament since the 1992 Constitution came into effect. And I think on the 7th of January 1993. Parliamentary Transition Bill is a very critical bill for this House, and we need to get it through so that they can have a better transitional arrangement put in place for the 9th Parliament of the 4th Republic. And the budget bill, as part of the 19 bills at various committee stages. And so we have 19 bills now that are under consideration. There are over 80 bills yet to be presented to the House. These may have to be considered in due course. We have 5 instruments before committees, 27 more instruments to be presented, 149 papers before various committees, 59 more to be presented, and some agreements lined up to be passed or approved. Copies of the agenda of the meeting will be given to every member of Parliament. This meeting is, however, proposed to end with the month of July, unless otherwise decided by the House. So by the end of July, we should be going back on recess, unless members here decide to continue. The weight of business to be considered by the House at this meeting is therefore clearly immeasurable. Honorable members, another important subject worthy of your careful consideration is law and governance. Thomas Jefferson tells us that, I want to quote him, "The care of human life and happiness, and not their destruction, is the first and only object of good government." Clearly, that is our mandate here as legislators. Our citizens deserve better, and we all must collectively unite to uphold their rights and safeguard their freedoms. I have therefore thought it wise to initiate an engagement of this House, led by my good self, with chairpersons of the Electoral Commission, the Media Commission, Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, and the National Commission on Civic Education to discuss how Parliament could collaborate and work with them to create the right and just environment for free, fair, peaceful, and credible elections. This, I believe, will inspire confidence in the process and faith in our democratic institutions. We will definitely not be doing this alone. We will include the President, the Council of State, the National Security Council, flag bearers, and national executives of various political parties. The security service, particularly the police, and I emphasize, particularly the police. We don't want to see military during election. When there is a need to call them, they will be called, but they should not be at polling or voting centers. Honorable members, the clergy and notable civil society leaders will be actively involved. The signs and signals of happenings in the country are not that of assurance and hope. I shudder when I'm told that people going to write their names carry knives, guns, just to go and write names. What about when we are going to vote? And at the end of it all, the results are announced, and somebody else has carried the day, and not the other. I shudder to picture what will happen. Apart from that, the joblessness, the homelessness, and the hopelessness of the youth cannot be taken lightly. We must act together and now to prevent a journey to calamity or to a journey of no return. Honorable members, as the English conductor Sir Thomas Beecham once noted, there are only 2 golden rules for an orchestra. You start together and you finish together. Let us, as a political class, start together and finish together. I didn't hear you. The public does not give a damn what goes on in between the starting together and finishing together. With this, it is clear that as representatives of the people, we have a significant amount of work ahead of us, and I therefore urge all members to patronize the work and ensure that we make progress on these important matters. I've given signal to the chairs of the constitutional commissions, and they are more than happy to engage with us. And the chairperson of the Electoral Commission has promised to be here anytime we want her, so we can talk and clarify issues. That is a very good signal. Honorable members, on this note, I welcome you to the third meeting of the fourth session of the 8th Parliament of the Fourth Republic of Ghana. You are welcome. We may take some sweetening words from our leaders as they lead us through this meeting. And so we will start from the minority leader and end up with the majority leader. Yes, Honorable Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm most grateful for the opportunity to make a statement to welcome members and your good self to the commencement of the third meeting of the fourth session of the 8th Parliament of the Republic of Ghana, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it feels so good to see everyone back. I'm grateful to the Lord Almighty for his protection over all of us. Mr. Speaker, kindly indulge me to bring to your notice and to the notice of the House some matters that require urgent national attention. These matters, Mr. Speaker, are worrying, and since they have the potential to disturb the peace and threaten the stability of the democracy. Mr. Speaker, this is particularly so because if this is not checked, it can lead into the destruction of the democracy that we have all fought for. Mr. Speaker, prior to the last District Assembly elections, the NDC Minority Caucus raised concerns about the conduct of the Electoral Commission during the limited registration. This was because the Commission made terrible decisions that threatened the integrity of Ghana's electoral process. Mr. Speaker, this set the Electoral Commission on a coalition course with some political parties, civil society organizations, and potential first-time voters. In February 2023, the NDC minority had a cause to say that this Electoral Commission enjoys taking unwholesome decisions, being disruptive, fancies courting public disaffection, and enjoys being roundly condemned by right-thinking people. We said this at the time because the Electoral Commission had taken a decision to restrict first-time voters to register only at the offices of the Electoral Commission. That reckless decision had the potential to disenfranchise or deprive the vast majority of first-time voters the opportunity to have their names captured in the voter register. That decision by the Electoral Commission made the registration of new voters during the limited registration exercise very difficult, cumbersome, painful, and laborious for those who were qualified to register as voters. The decision of the Electoral Commission also imposed huge unplanned financial burden on members of Parliament, parliamentary candidates, and political parties. Persons who were registering for the first time were needlessly subjected to frustrations and great inconvenience. Past members of Parliament were subjected to significant unplanned out-of-pocket expenditures. People had to travel long distances, Mr. Speaker, to the offices of the Electoral Commission, endure long delays from queues, and suffer the agony of broken down registration equipment and network failures. Mr. Speaker, one would have thought that the Electoral Commission would have learned lessons from the reckless decision that I have just recounted, which created chaos and confusion over the place. But no, Mr. Speaker, the Electoral Commission learned nothing from the past. These terrible decisions have just been repeated by the Electoral Commission in just ended voter registration, as well as the ongoing vote transfer exercise. Mr. Speaker, the Electoral Commission is making a simple electoral process very cumbersome, frustrating, expensive, and, Mr. Speaker, burdensome. These developments do not inspire hope in our electoral process. Rather, they give people and some political parties cause to question the integrity of the processes ahead of the 2024 general election. We are concerned, Mr. Speaker, that if these frustrations frustrating actions and decisions of the Electoral Commission is not checked, it can negatively impact the peace and stability of our democracy. Mr. Speaker, despite the Electoral Commission's earlier agreement with political parties at IPAC meetings to let the party agents monitor vote transfer, the Commission made a strange announcement banning party agents from the ongoing voter transfer and for them to be able to monitor the voter transfer. Again, Mr. Speaker, it took the strong pushback from the NDC and some civil society organizations and condemnations, Mr. Speaker, across the country for the Electoral Commission to retreat. These developments, Mr. Speaker, are unhealthy for our electoral process and democracy and go a long way to ground the public perception of bias on the part of this particular Electoral Commission. Mr. Speaker, why must this Electoral Commission always take questionable decisions which create chaos and confusion across the country? Why must this Electoral Commission always threaten the peace and stability of our dear democracy? Mr. Speaker, I may ask again, why must it take massive pushback from the public and backlash from the Electoral Commission to always do what is right for the people of Ghana? Mr. Speaker, whilst we acknowledge the Electoral Commission is an independent body, it must be pointed out in no uncertain terms to the Electoral Commission that it does not have the independence to make dangerous, ridiculous, and outrageous decisions that can affect the peace and stability of our country and its democracy. It is therefore imperative for Parliament to call the Electoral Commission to order and to save the democracy that we have always protected. Mr. Speaker, the NDC Minority Caucus want to use this forum to demand an urgent committee of the whole meeting with the Electoral Commission and to iron out these concerns before, Mr. Speaker, it is too late. Right Honourable Speaker, may I now move to another issue of considerable national interest. Mr. Speaker, only some few days ago, we woke up to the news of another scandal that this government has given out our 5G spectrum to a company or a new entity called the Next Gen Infraco Company Limited for the next 10 years. Mr. Speaker, under this deal, we were told that the Next Gen Infraco Limited has been given the exclusive right to build, own, and operate the entire 5G infrastructure network across the country for the use of all mobile network operators, internet service providers, and other interested entities. Interestingly, Mr. Speaker, the President granted executive approval for the Sweetheart deal on the 22nd of August 2023, barely 1 week after the company was incorporated on the 16th of August 2023. This arrangement, Mr. Speaker, are not transparent, was awarded without any competitive process whatsoever, and has not been subjected to parliamentary approval as required by Section 33 of the Public Financial Management Act 921, 2016. While conservative estimates suggest that the government could have raised between $250 million to $500 million upfront, this government is giving our national asset away at a paltry $6.25 million and 1% annual revenue per annum over a period of 10 years on a work and pay basis. Simply put, Mr. Speaker, Ghana will receive $42.2 million in present value terms, assuming cost of capital is 10%, for a national asset that could have cost us, that this nation could have raked in up to $500 million. Mr. Speaker, this deal does not deliver value for money. It has shortchanged the people of Ghana, Mr. Speaker, particularly at a time that Ghanaians need so much foreign exchange to cushion the currency, and also at a time that Ghana actually requires some form of non-tax revenue to take the burden of the taxpayer. The NDC minority has therefore flagged this transaction, Mr. Speaker, for further scrutiny, and we urge the government to do what is right and present the document before us for us to do justice with it before the agreement is actually signed. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the projections and statistics on the food situation in Ghana, Mr. Speaker, is grim. According to the World Food Programme report that was issued in March 2024, more than 1 million Ghanaians are likely to face food insecurity between now and August. Mr. Speaker, for example, the price of a bucket of tomato, which was sold at 75 cedis at the beginning of this year, now sells at 180 Ghana cedis. This represents an increase of 140%. Mr. Speaker, the price of a crate of tomato increased by more than 360% between January and June this year alone, moving from 1,500 Ghana cedis to 7,000 Ghana cedis. In a matter of 1 week, Right Honorable Speaker, the price of a sack of onion jumped from 600 Ghana cedis to 1,050 Ghana cedis, an increase of nearly 100%. Mr. Speaker, a sack of kokonte, which was sold for 900 Ghana cedis in December 2023, now sells as 1,100 Ghana cedis. This means, Mr. Speaker, that within 5 months, the price of kokonte has gone up by 22.2%. A tuber of yam, Right Honorable Speaker, was sold at 25 Ghana cedis as of December 2023. It's now going for 30 Ghana cedis. This represents, again, another 20% increase in the price of yam. Right Honorable Speaker, high food prices are not the only challenges facing the people of Ghana, but food shrinkflation, where food vendors maintain their prices but reduce the quantity or the size of their portion, is also the new order of the day. I'm sure that those of you who have purchased in Kandokon or Gan KK recently will appreciate the food shrinkflation that I'm talking about. Mr. Speaker, the food is shrinking in size by the day, even though they claim the price is not increasing. Shrinkflation has become the order of the day as long as food is concerned. Mr. Speaker, in all honesty, the chroma is shit. Times are very hard and Ghanaians are really suffering. Right Honorable Speaker, I'm curious. I want to ask, what has happened to the billions of Ghana cedis approved by this House for the government's so-called flagship program, Planting for Food and Jobs? Where is the food and where are the jobs? Right Honorable Speaker, where are they planting for? Are they planting for high food inflation or they are planting for joblessness? Mr. Speaker, we are back. Trust us, the NDC Minority Caucus, to protect the interests of the people of Ghana. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
May we now listen to the Majority Leader.
Right Honorable Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to welcome colleagues from recess. I'd like to once again express my sincere appreciation and gratitude to your good self, Mr. Speaker, colleague members of the leadership, honorable members, the clerk to Parliament and staff of the Parliamentary Service for always rising up to the occasion and rallying to the national call whenever the House considers it necessary. I commend the Parliamentary Press Corps for their consistent coverage of the business of the House. Mr. Speaker, the sacrifices and dedication of your good self and officers of parliamentary service in ensuring that the House is able to perform its constitutional mandate is worth commending, and I take this opportunity to extol you for your patriotism. Mr. Speaker, as you are well aware, during recess, honorable members did not idle about, but continue to perform their constitutional obligations to the people they represent. Members take the opportunity to visit their constituencies and interact with their constituents and also solve their problems. I entertain no doubt that honorable members were able to make time to rest and also to relax in order to be refreshed and renewed for the arduous task and responsibilities this meeting may present. Mr. Speaker, having said so, let me proceed to state that there are a number of priority business to be transacted by the House, including bills to be laid, loan agreements, mining leases and commercial agreements, instruments and requests for tax waivers and import duties, etc. Mr. Speaker, we have as much as 24 bills that have been referred to committees. Again, Mr. Speaker, we have statutory report that ought to be laid and considered by the House. Upon my count, we have 11 of these. Mr. Speaker, the need to address the affirmative action bill has already been echoed by you, and I would encourage our colleagues who are in charge of this important bill to do all they can to deliver on their mandate. Mr. Speaker, looking at the above business and others waiting to be programmed, my colleagues will agree with me that we have a Herculean task ahead of us in this third meeting of the fourth session. I shall humbly encourage our hard-working committee chairpersons and ranking members to expedite actions on various referrals already before them and also prepare to receive new referrals as the Speaker may so direct. Mr. Speaker, let me concede that we do not have a perfect system. Ghana is not a perfect country, but we have made some progress. In the field of education, Mr. Speaker, at the time this government assumed office in 2017, we had around 800,000 of our children in school. Today, due to the implementation of the free SHS, we have 1.4 million Ghanaian youth in schools. Mr. Speaker, many are those who, because their parents could not afford, they had to stay home. Today, government has added TVET to the free SHS policy, so technical education is free. I always look back at my colleagues I completed BEC with, who had distinction but could not have the benefit of secondary education. Their lives are wasted. I was privileged, Mr. Speaker, to have benefited from a bursary by Parkway Sindo when I was in final year at St. Augustine's College. Today, I've had the benefit of secondary education. I stand here as a representative of the people of Ifutu. But what about those who were good, who were knowledgeable, who had the intelligence, who had what it takes to benefit from secondary education, but their parents could not afford? Indeed, this government rose up to the call. The call was an aspirational call, but today, this government has made free SHS a possibility, and Ghanaians are benefiting. I believe that we shall together work as a people to address the challenges in the educational sector. Suffice to state, Mr. Speaker, that we have seen massive infrastructural development in our various secondary schools, especially in our vocational technical institutions. All the 58 vocational technical institutions have been well equipped with new hostels, administration blocks, and machinery. All are there for us to see. Mr. Speaker, this government acknowledges that our people face various forms of challenges. It is in the light of this that history will remember this government as the only government in this Fourth Republic ever to reduce electricity tariffs. In 2018, Mr. Speaker, the government of Ghana announced various tariff reductions ranging between 18 to 30%. It's a matter of record. Between 18 to 30%. This has never happened in the history of this country. Mr. Speaker, no doubt we face an election in 2024, December 7th. We know the work that the Electoral Commission is doing. They are not a perfect institution. They may have challenges. But when it comes to them, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to the registration exercise they recently conducted, it is clear that they did better than what happened in 2016. In 2016, Mr. Speaker, the Electoral Commission limited its registration to only 8 offices. To only 8 offices. In this registration exercise, apart from 8 district offices, additional centers were created. So this exercise was far better than what we experienced in 2016. But perhaps, Mr. Speaker, let me rely on the veritable words of His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama, when in 2016 he encouraged Ghanaians, quote, let's not overly criticize the Electoral Commission. Let's have faith in our Electoral Commission. Let's have faith in our Electoral Commission. Relying on these veritable words, I shall encourage all of us as Ghanaians to have faith .
Honorable members, let's listen to the leader, please. Honorable members, Majority Leader, you may continue.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your protection. Mr. Speaker, we are all beneficiaries of democratic governance, and it is incumbent upon us to ensure its sustenance and continuity, and this can only be achieved by engendering the trust and confidence of the populace in the process. Democracy has brought so much benefit to this country, and that I expect that every well-meaning Ghanaian citizen will strive to protect and ensure the peace and harmony we enjoy today is sustained for tomorrow. Mr. Speaker, the situation where elected members of this august house go to the media or resort to the use of other platforms to attack independent constitutional bodies and agencies in a manner that is unbecoming should be a thing of the past. I do not think that I need to remind honorable members and civil society of the happenings around us where the gains of democracy are increasingly being rolled back through military adventurism, coup d'etats, and terrorism, which is as a result of these unguarded commentaries and statements by persons and officials of state who should have been working to protect and safeguard the practice of constitutional governance. It is imperative that we avoid any incendiary statement and accusations that can harm our democracy and the peace and unity we enjoy. Let us endeavor to preserve and protect our democracy so that we can reap the gains and benefit thereof and bequeath to the future generation a prosperous and a peaceful Ghana. Mr. Speaker, as the House is already aware, a successful by-election was conducted in Ejiso constituency in the Ashanti region, where our colleague, Kwabena Boateng, was elected as a member of Parliament. The member was duly sworn in during the recent recall sitting in accordance with the Constitution and other standing orders of the House. Again, I take this opportunity to welcome him to this august house and to encourage him to make an impact in this house. Mr. Speaker, admittedly, any opposition party may decide not to agree with the ruling party, and our democracy is no exception to this development. Nonetheless, even in our disagreements, we must put the welfare and well-being of our people first and eschew any act that will deny our people the benefits they are likely to gain from our work as parliamentarians, which is our utmost duty. We must understand that no parliament can operate without cooperation and consensus building, and these must be our guiding principles. Whether in opposition or in government, democracy is supposed to yield positive dividends to the people, and we, as elected representatives, have a key role to play in this regard. We must therefore live up to our responsibility. Mr. Speaker, let me remind colleagues that as a result of the standing orders that we adopted, there will be the need for us to reconstitute committees of parliament. Leadership has put its heads together, and very soon, I'm sure that would lay before this House the new committees for us to proceed to do our work as a House. We may have challenges as a country, Mr. Speaker, but it is possible to traverse, remain strong, and come out as a people and keep our democracy. Mr. Speaker, without more, I shall thank you and thank my colleagues for their kind audience.
So you've been watching live proceedings from Parliament. It is the third meeting for this session, and according to the Speaker, the House is expected to rise at the end of July. But they have a lot to discuss, about 80 bills, instruments, and referrals that the House will have to deal with. And again, the Speaker made it clear that the House intends to engage with the Electoral Commission, the NCCE, the presidential candidates of the various political parties, President Akufo-Addo, the Council of State, in a way to come to some agreement on the way forward in terms of ensuring a peaceful conduct of the 2024 general elections. And we heard both leaders, the minority leader, Kese Latofosem, and Alexander Afenyamarkin, the majority leader, all encouraging members to work towards ensuring that we protect the democracy that we have. And I'm sure that in the coming days, we'll have more to digest on the matter that came on the floor this morning. Also this morning, before the House reconvened for the third meeting, the majority leader, Alexander Afenyamarkin, at the news conference, told the media that government intends to lay a bill in the House that will seek to give legal backing to the free senior high school program, and then to ensure that beyond 2025, it will still continue to be, a program or a policy that will ensure that access to free senior secondary school will be guaranteed, and funding will be guaranteed for the students as well. But how is the NDC thinking this? Let me bring in Peter Nochukoto, the ranking member on the Education Committee. We'll also be speaking to Dr. Peter Antipati, Executive Director, Institute for Education Studies. But let me start with the Honorable Peter Nochukoto. Honorable, you're welcome to the poll. So, 6 months to end the Akufo-Addo administration. They've made it clear that they will be coming to Parliament with a bill that will seek to give legal backing to the free senior high school program. And of course, your committee will have a lot of work to do around this. First, your initial reaction to government position on the free SHS.
Yeah, thank you very much. And good afternoon to your viewers. Honestly,
we are losing you briefly, Honorable. Yes, Honorable, yes. Yes, please go on for us.
article.
Yes, please go on. We can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please, please go on.
Yeah. According to Article 25(1)(b), it is stated that I quote.
Again, we are having technical issues with our connection to the ranking member on the Education Committee. Let me see if I can bring in Dr. Peter Ante, if we have him on the line. So whilst we try to work around this, see if we can rather raise them on the phone, because it looks like the Zoom is giving us some challenges this afternoon. Yes, so Dr. Peter Ante, good afternoon. Right. So, Honorable Nochu, you are making a point there. Please go on.
Yeah, I was saying that there's a constitutional provision for free SHS in the Constitution. And that's why in 2015, President Mahama introduced the Free Senior High School on progressively free approach system, meaning that maybe in the next 3-4 years, it will be fully rolled out. So that was what we started in 2015. Then in 2017, this government
Right. Again, the challenge there in sustaining connection to Honorable Peter Nochu for this conversation on the Free Senior High School program. And we'll see if we can rectify this and have this conversation through another means. But illegal mining, unfavorable weather conditions, and smuggling activities have compelled export revenue of cocoa to fall by some $500 million as the country's annual production number continues to tumble. Now, this was contained in Bank of Ghana's summary of macroeconomic and financial data for May 2024. It is coming at a time when the city is struggling to hold grounds against major trading currencies, having lost more than 20% of its value to the dollar since the beginning of this year. So how will Cocoa Board tackle the challenge of low yields? My colleague, Faustino Safo, has been finding answers from the head of public affairs at Cocoa Board, Fifi Buafu.
The revenue is raised basically from export of cocoa. And when there's low exports, it affects the revenue stream coming in. And cocoa production this year is pretty obvious that production this year compared to previous years, we've not had a good year. The reason, as you indicated, is one from the effect of El Nino, two has to do with smuggling, the third one has to do with the effect of the soil-issued viral disease, and then the fourth one also has to do with illegal mining. So these are basically the main reasons or drivers that have seen the low productivity or low production this year compared to previous years, hence this shortfall in terms of revenue from cocoa.
Let's take them one by one. You talk about illegal mining, which I'm very interested in. How has it impacted cocoa production so far? What figures do you have? Well,
the team is out there to undertake some study. So it is difficult to put figures to it. But yes, illegal mining has affected cocoa production. It comes in different forms. Firstly, there are farms which have been converted to illegal mining sites. So hitherto these farms were producing cocoa. They are no more producing cocoa today. So certainly it will have an effect. The second part is also some farms have also been cut off. Access to the farms is very difficult now for the farmers to access these farms. The illegal miners actually, they dig holes. That makes it difficult for the farmers to cross these heavy holes that blocking the access to the farms, so that also affect them. The other side is also the farm hands these farmers hire to help them on their farms. The illegal mining is within the cocoa communities. Hitherto, they were paying the farm hands some amount of money. When illegal mining is introduced into that community, it becomes difficult for the farmers to compete in terms of hiring these farm hands to help them on their farms. Because when they go to the illegal mine site, how much they make they do not find the same amount when they work for the cocoa farmers. So the farmers do not get the farmers. I remember I had a conversation with a cousin of mine. She's a lady, a cocoa farmer. And she says she was actually struggling to get farmers to help her harvest the cocoa, because the youth in the community prefer to go to the galamsey sites. And then she has to, on her own, harvest the cocoa. It has an effect. So that's another challenge it brings to the farmers. The cost of production is also increased as a result of the illegal mining in these communities. The cost of production, because I've already indicated this on your network before, farmers will have to spray their cocoa farms because the water bodies along these areas have been polluted. So they have to carry water from home to go and do the spraying. I talked about the farm hands. So what the farmer will have to do is to increase, probably double or increase the amount paid to the farmers to help them on the farm. It affects the cost of production. So it has its effect on cocoa production generally. But I would say that among all the factors that has resulted to the low production we see this year is the El Nino effect.
Tell us more about that effect.
So El Nino is a weather condition, and it happens within a time interval, according to geographers, between a time interval of about 10 years. What happened is that we experienced heavy rainfall pattern at a time we're not expecting it. And that led to some of the cherries falling. And then we got into a season where you expect some level of rainfall. It did not happen at the time, but rather we saw a very severe harmattan. I think there was a recording of the highest harmattan we've experienced or the world has seen some number of years now. And that led to the productivity of the farms. I remember one time I said on your network that weather effect has had an impact on low production. And then some people were making fun of it, but it will be very unfortunate if someone downplays the effect of weather on agriculture commodity, especially when you rely on rainfall agriculture, like we do in our country. So in a situation where we've had a very severe harmattan, suddenly the effect on production is huge and very significant. And that is what has contributed largely to the production numbers we see this year. And this, I will also make the point that it is not just limited to Ghana. Côte d'Ivoire is going through a similar situation among other producing countries. And indeed, the highest six are the West African countries. And you know, between Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana, we are the biggest producers of cocoa. We are experiencing that. So this is what largely has led to the production numbers we see today. The other factor is also the cocoa swollen shoot virus disease. The cocoa swollen shoot virus disease has been with us for some time now, but it started spreading widely, I think from 2016, 2017. So government took a decision, and the decision was to treat these farms. When we say treat, what it means is that you cut the cocoa trees down. When you don't cut it down, the spread continues. Unfortunately, as we speak, we do not have any chemical treatment that is able to treat farms that have been affected by swollen shoot. So we had to do that. Cutting all these farms were all contributing, not in a significant form, but in some level of cocoa. All such farms, or most of those farms, have been treated. When you treat them, their production to the mainstream is lost. You don't have them. So apart from the farms not doing well because they've been affected by the swollen shoot, all the farms you've treated, you've also lost the cocoa you were getting from these farms, unless these farms start producing.
All over again. I know that you have been on the grounds trying to mitigate the impact of smuggling, but how successful has that been?
Well, there's some level of smuggling still ongoing. The efforts are also ongoing to make sure that we deal with the issue of smuggling. But indeed, if there are those who say that every arrest you make, there's a likelihood that 10 times that has gone through the system. So, and if you look at the report we get, every week there's an arrest. Every single week, and sometimes more than one. There's an arrest. So if we are to believe the assertion that every arrest you make, 10 of them have scaled through, then it should tell you the impact it is having on the industry, because there have been several arrests across. Indeed, some of them have been successfully, we've prosecuted some of them.
How many of them?
I think about 5 persons are now in jail, serving between 5 to 7 years jail term as a result of smuggling. There are several cases in court currently, and these people are smuggling. There are those who raise the question that, so why are they smuggling? And indeed, we get that a lot. The smuggling is largely because between Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, we do the forward sales. And then the forward sales is a way of mitigating risk, and then also being able to have a secured funding for the year. But as we do that, in an unusual year where you see a price increase like we're experiencing this year, it gives room for people who want to sell on the spot to do so. Because yes, Ghana, we had signed some contracts and we are supposed to deliver. So every cocoa we take today, we have to use it to fulfill the contract we've signed. With these smugglers, every cocoa they get, they sell it on the spot at the prevailing world market price. And the price is where it is today, largely because there's low production in Cote d'Ivoire and in Ghana. And between the two countries, every cocoa you get, you are using that cocoa to service your contracts.
You're welcome back to the Pulse. Now, let's go to the court now, because Accra High Court has set Thursday, June 13, to rule on second admission of Jakpa's tape, Richard Jakpa, into evidence. The Attorney General has objected an attempt by lawyers for Dr. Kesela to force him to tender into evidence the audio recording between Richard Jakpa, the third accused in this matter, and the Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Damin. Latif Idris was in court for us and has been engaging the National Communication Director Officer of the NDC, Sami Jemfi.
That the courts gave him at the last agenda date, that it will be in the interest of the judicial process if he be strongly advised to stay away from the proceedings. It is something that you in the media can prove further for us to know whether he has decided to abide the advice of the courts or why he didn't come to court. Be that as it may, we were looking forward to continuing cross-examination of the first accused, of the third accused person, Mr. Jakpa. Unfortunately, an objection was raised by the Attorney General on grounds that the audio recording that we are seeking, when I say we, I mean lawyers for Honorable Atuforsen, are seeking to tender through Mr. Jakpa, is not admissible because, number one, they say sufficient foundation has not been laid for it. Number two, they say that the tape is not relevant to the proceedings. And number three, they say that the tape violates Article 18 relative to Godfred Damin's right to privacy. You heard lawyer Aziz Bamba give a very detailed response to that objection, where he explained that, number one, the tape is very relevant to the proceedings because it borders on exhibits before the court, Exhibit A and Exhibit V. Exhibit V is a contract between the government of Ghana and Big C for the supply of the 200 ambulances, which is what has led to this case in the first place. You also see Godfred Damin talk to Jakpa on the tape about Exhibit A, which is the letter from the Ministry of Finance signed by the Deputy Minister for Finance, Honorable Atuforsen, authorizing the Bank of Ghana to establish letters of credit in favor of Big C. So these are matters before the court that are very relevant. If the AG, as the prosecutor-in-chief, is having conversations with an accused person about these exhibits, okay, and how the AG wants the accused person to testify about those matters which are before the court and are the issues for determination in the case, then in our opinion, there cannot be any dispute about the relevance of this evidence. It's very material because on the tape, you hear them talk about the letter of credit. When that was supposed to be established, you hear the AG saying that it should have been done after pre-shipment inspection, okay? Then you hear Mr. Jakpa says, no, it was supposed to be done upon the signing of the contract. The AG says it should have been one letter of credit for the entire 200 ambulances. You hear Jakpa say, no, it is for every 50. So the issues the AG has brought to court to ground his charge of woefully causing financial loss to the state and misapplication of public funds against Ato Forson were the issues he was discussing with Jakpa on that tape. So how can anybody say the issues are not relevant? Then number two, the issue about right to privacy. We know that every person in Ghana has a right to privacy, but Article 18.2 has exceptions, okay? And Article 12 also spells out exceptions for all fundamental human rights. And if you look at the Kubaji case determined by the Supreme Court, cited by this court in its ruling of 6 June, it says that yes, you have a right to privacy, but if you are committing a crime in your privacy, you can be recorded. That right to privacy does not hold. It can be violated. In other words, somebody can record you, and that recording will be admissible because that recording is seeking to prevent a crime. Another point which was not even added in the argument of counsel is that that right is also subject to the respect of the fundamental human rights of others. So if Honorable Ato Forson has a right to a fair trial, Jakpa has a right to a fair trial, and Godfrey Dame engages Jakpa, third accused, unprofessionally, and seeks to coach him to give evidence in a way that undermines the right of the accused persons to a fair trial, then he cannot assert his right to privacy if he's recorded. Again.
Well, so let me bring in legal affairs correspondent Latif Idris, who was in court. Latif, so first of all, was the minority leader in court today?
The minority leader was in court today, despite the fact that he was supposed to be in Parliament. We know Parliament resumed sitting today. And the judge made a reference to that effect, that yes, he had received a letter from counsel for Dr. Kisla Forson, making the claim that he's supposed to be in Parliament because he's the leader of the minority today. She said, and I'm quoting what the judge said, I will sit. So based on that, Dr. Kisla Forson had to be in court, and he respected that, and he showed up in court together with the third accused, Richard Jakpa, who, if you have noticed, his trademark is that he's always in a cowboy cap and his clothes always neatly pressed in black shoe and his dark shades to match. And he also showed up in court and was looking lively and interacted with those who attended the court today.
So I was under the impression that last week when the judge, gave her ruling on the applications, she also allowed for the tendering in of this tape or audio recording. So why was it an issue today, and why has the judge decided to give another ruling on this same recording?
Yes, so Elton, you got the correct impression. In fact, it wasn't an impression. That was exactly what happened, and you are right. Mm. So last week, what happened was that there was, if you recall, there were applications for mistrial, conduct into the inquiry into the conduct of the Attorney General, and other 3 applications by Ato Forson and Richard Jakpa. So let's focus on the mistrial. The judge last week made a ruling on all the applications, and before she made that ruling, she needed to admit into evidence the audio recording just for the purposes of the mistrial. Let's get that clear.
Right.
So she admitted the audio into evidence to cure the application for mistrial as applied by Dr. Kisla Forson's lawyer. Mm. So it was just on that leg that the trial judge admitted into evidence the audio recording, which she said she listened to it 10 times before passing her ruling.
Okay.
So I don't know if we are clear on this one. That yes, she admitted the audio into evidence last week, but for the sole purpose of determining whether there's been a mistrial or otherwise. And so that has been cleared. And so the audio has taken care of a leg of the ongoing trial. And so today's attempt was also to attempt to tender it into evidence for yet another cure, if you like. I don't know if it is clear now, Elton.
I get you clearly.
Yeah.
So you spoke to the Deputy Attorney General after the proceedings today. Tell us his reaction.
Yes, so today also, we're expecting the Attorney General himself, Godfred Yeboah-Dame, to show up in court based on what we saw last week when, even after the judge advised that he should recuse himself, he still went ahead and did the case in open court. And when we interviewed him, he told us that we saw him in court, he was continuing with the case. But today, he didn't show up in court. And so one of the questions I asked his deputy, who sat in for him today, was whether or not the Attorney General has now decided to go on with to take the advice of the trial judge or otherwise. And he tells me that, well, as a department, they are looking and studying and assessing the advice by the trial judge, and they will make a determination on that going forward. We can take a quick listen to the Deputy Attorney General who spoke with us moments ago at the court complex.
She raised about 2 objections, one about relevance, then one about constitutional infractions. So I'll not go into details. We are in court. The judge will definitely deliver a ruling on it, and we'll know where it will be.
Well, there are many who are wondering about the fact that in the rulings of this application, the court admits this very video. Now, it's been tendered to the accused person, and then there's an objection. Many will want to know what's the difference.
Yeah, when it comes to motions, the judge explained, motion for mistrial, that document was exhibited, and the judge said she was going to consider, because the base of mistrial was that something untoward had been done. And the judge needed to ascertain whether from the tape something bad had been done by the learned AG. And the judge was so clear that AG was not heard on that tape suggesting that the third accused person should implicate the first accused. So that is settled, sealed. And so today what they are seeking is to tender the same tape. So we said, fine, if you want to tender, you must show that it is relevant to the issues we are going to contest in this matter. And that's why we demonstrated that it is not relevant so far as the determination of whether they are guilty or not guilty, or the issues involved are concerned. So that's the difference.
You also argue of the view that the last court sitting, the judge advised the Attorney General to look at the situation, that if possible, directly, he should not involve himself. Is that the reason we didn't see him today?
We are looking at it. So definitely, you get to know whatever decision that he takes.
Has he taken the advice from the judge?
He's looking at it. So you wait. When the time comes, you definitely know the decision that he has taken.
Are we going to see him back in court on Thursday?
He's a lawyer. He comes to court as and when he deems it fit. If he thinks that on any day he needs to be in court, he may be in court.
But would he take part in the ongoing trial?
You leave it for now and let's see the decision that he takes.
You also argue that there are no proper...
I think...
So his absence today hasn't got anything to do with the advice of the...
Oh, I will not say it has something to do with it. It has not something to do with it. AG sometimes comes to court, sometimes it doesn't come to court. So as I said, today it's not in court. But for the reason, leave it. And in the fullness of time, you know the decision that he has taken.
In your argument, you mentioned that no proper foundation has been laid to accept this audio. What foundation were you looking forward to from the counsel for A3?
If you are conversant with the decision in Rafael Kubaji and Aka and others, it's to the fact that you cannot record someone secretly without a person's consent. And that if you want to record and that recording borders on criminal conduct, then that recording will be properly carried out.
So that's the Deputy Attorney General, Alfred Chianyebo. Well, that's our show for today. For more stories, log on to our website, myjoyonline.com. So it's on myjoyonline.com. Judge set June 13 to rule on whether to admit the Richard Jakpa's tape into evidence. I'll be more accountable than Mahama because I want an 8-year term. And that's coming from Dr. Mahama Dibawame. And of course, minority to boycott Parliament over Arthur Forson's court appearance in solidarity. Well, so tomorrow, same time, tomorrow will be Wednesday, tomorrow will be here to bring you another exciting edition of the Pulse here on Joy News. But whatever you are up to in the hours ahead, I hope it's profitable. You have a good evening. Take care and see you tomorrow.